Ray touched on it, but how are we going to actually change as a company? Culturally, we felt like everybody was pretty pro-technology. They weren't afraid to try new things. So at the day-to-day operational level, we had people that were willing to take on this challenge and learn new tools or new processes. But it's not just about that. The hearts and minds at that level are really important, but there's also hearts and minds at our executive level and at our board level that we had to go through. And we were talking with Ray right before we got up here. He went through a similar process, except I think it's scale. His scale is a little different than our scale. But for us, we still had to get hearts and minds buy-in at the executive level. Why would we come in and introduce this change? We had done this 5-year vision, but we are gangbusters busy right now. Why on earth will we go and change while we're in the middle of doing all those projects? I mean, that you're going to take people off of active projects, active pursuits that are, of sizable scale. I mean, these aren't just small projects. These are campus projects, hospital projects. We can't possibly pull those resources for 6 months or a year and have them go out and be learning a new software and redeveloping a database and testing reports and all that kind of stuff. It's just not plausible. So we first established, went back to our goal. We always go back to our 5-year vision, our 5-year vision plan and say, this was our vision. How are we going to get there? And so the approach that we took was, who in our staff had the experience to help define a database? Certainly wasn't going to be just me. I'm an architect, again. I'm not going to have all those years of extensive knowledge around estimating. Who within the Precon group could really help us define what we needed to do in order to get assemblies and line items and reports and married up to our CMIC accounting system so we could roll books for cost and on the construction side. I mean, there's all these bits and pieces that we had to go through and basically review every single step. So we looked within the group to try and find someone who wasn't just a great estimator, but someone who was open to challenging the way that we had been doing things, understood the problems with the current system that we had. It's no secret, I don't think, that we used MC squared for a long time. We were a 20, 25-year customer. And so we had used that tool over and over again. There had been years of refinement. I think when we started to roll the database, we had over 30,000 line items, and I remember Beck and Stuart, Stuart and Beck and Brent called and said, there's over 30,000 line items in your database. Do you really use all these? I don't know. I'm going to need to find that one out. And so ultimately, the point I'm getting at is we tried to find somebody in the group that understood our current challenges, was open to seeing how we could do things better, and was somewhere we were going to be able to basically pull out of production and put them into this new role. So for us, and this is how it uniquely worked out for us, was we had someone that was within about a year or two of retirement, had a great history of doing estimates, successfully understood how to get through the entire estimating process in short cycles, was a very high productive person. And so, his name was Doug, so I can stop talking around him. So Doug was open to doing this. And so we sat down with Doug after we had nailed down all the other parts and pieces of this and said, we're going to pull you out of production on a daily basis. You're working towards retirement. We would really like your help in helping us execute this. Now, that just happened to work out that way for us, and we got very fortunate that Doug was able to spend his time there. But how everyone else is going to do that, I don't know that you're going to be able to find someone in your organization that's on their way out like that. But you're going to, in our experience, it seemed that having at least one person that had a good foundation in estimating that could understand our current challenges and how we work with each other. It's not just the software, it's how do we work together on our estimates. That person was going to help us drive that change better because not only did they have that experience, they also had the buy-in from the group. So I can push technology and all those kinds of things, and that's what I was really good at, was helping to orchestrate the change. But within the group, we needed somebody who was also bought in by the rest of the team, that they knew how to do estimates and they understood those challenges around estimating. And I think that's where, between myself and Doug in this case, and Brent, we were able to put our heads together around what that vision needed to be and how we were going to go through that process.
Yeah, for our team, it really, the change revolved around a change in leadership. So our director of Precon is an enthusiastic champion of Profiler to begin with, and now estimator. And that, Ray, you mentioned change has to happen from the bottom up, and I do agree. I would add to that, you've got to have it from every level. You've got to have it from the top down, the bottom up, and somewhere in the middle. Working with a group right now that has enthusiastic leadership in the middle management role. The mandate's been set from above that this is going to happen. That middle management's taken ownership of it and says, okay, we're going to do this. And then they've got talented, enthusiastic people at the doer or the execution level that are really making it happen. And so that's super important. And I want to echo what Andy's talking about with Doug. Our industry is in a unique place right now because of the blends of age groups and experience levels that are involved in industry right now. And we have such an opportunity to get everyone involved at this point. No one should be on their way out, at least involuntarily. And if they're on their way out voluntarily, we should find a way to get them plugged in. I can speak for myself at least. And there was a time when I worked right beside our director of pre-con as a young estimator. And that year that I spent working directly for him was the steepest learning curve I've ever experienced in my career, and hugely beneficial to me. And I would say, as a result of that, beneficial to the organization, because everything he taught me, I still have with me today, and the organization benefits from. So as an industry, as we embrace this change and this changing time, if we can figure out a way to pair up people who have 30-plus years of experience and aren't ready to retire or are looking for a way to ride off into the sunset. I'm not trying to make this sound depressing, but a way to marry these people with extensive knowledge and the heart of a teacher, really. There's a tremendous opportunity there for us as an industry. Our change has ebbed and flowed over the years. Our most recent impetus for change right now is a change in leadership, and now we have a great staff that is enthusiastic about the change as well, and I think that's a big component of it. So at the point you've decided to change, when do you decide to make the jump, so to speak? I think anybody that has experienced change or is about to experience change, you know that at some level you're making a commitment to work or operate on the bleeding edge, right? Now, again, I'll use my Revit analogy. I'm using this way too much, but there were organizations that jumped right out there on the forefront, and they were on the bleeding edge. They decided that they were going to throw AutoCAD out the door and start using Revit for everything. And did they experience challenges? Of course. So when you're on the bleeding edge, or I would say when you're on the leading edge, you have to be prepared as an organization to run into some challenges and run into setbacks. But that goes back to expectations, right? I mean, you set a certain level of expectation. When we as an organization are committed to change or committed to being innovative, we recognize that there's going to be roadblocks and hurdles. The first roadblock that comes up isn't the time to pull the ripcord and bail. That's the first of many times when you say, okay, this was expected, we signed up for this, let's figure out the way forward and keep on rolling. So I think you have to be aware of setting an expectation. Then once you've got that buy-in and you've got that commitment from all levels that we're going to spend the money, which is the resources, time, effort, and energy, and people to do this, you've got to have a plan. And so I won't reiterate what Ray did a great job of talking about it, but you have to have a plan that helps you execute on that change, whatever that is. You get buy-in from her, you got a plan, you've proven it out through a pilot, then you go into probably some kind of a core group that helps lead the change. Probably at the point of that core group has to be somebody that's been given the I don't want to use the word authority, but has been, well, yeah, authority is the right word. I don't mean in a power sense. I mean authority to spend the time and the energy to help execute on that change, because at the end of the day, it's going to cost the organization some money to go through this process.